thanks for selecting my video. It's a video that's made up with a compilation, a mixture of videos, recordings, photographs of various stuff that I've recorded over various times. And it's things that I find personally to be quite bizarre, quite strange, puzzling. I've always liked to learn how things are. I've always been fascinated in mysteries and stuff like that ever since I was a kid. Always have and always will. It's intrigued me. But the video quests, I've made a few of them before, and if you've saw them in the previous quest videos, you'll know the format. So if you haven't, then give it a go, see what you think. It's just made up of sections of videos that, as I say, I've recorded over different times. Stuff that I've logged myself that I find bizarre, and I've just sort of like joined them into this video to put it out there to see if you've got any, if you're interested, to maybe offer your suggestion or explanation to the things that I find puzzling. It may not be puzzling for you. You might find it normal, or you may have a logical explanation for it. I just find it puzzling, so I've put it on this video just to see what sort of explanations that there are out there. See, I've always been interested in that kind of stuff, mystery solving, things like that. So give it a go, see what you think, and as I say, if you're interested in giving us a comment on the explanation for it, then that'd be great, because it would, I would have something, an explanation, and sure others that might read the comments might also want to know as well. So thanks for selecting it anyway, give it a go and see what you think. Okay, cheers. Now this is just absolutely well off the scale for a coincidence. Well off the scale. Far too much of a coincidence. It's mind reading, if you ask me. I was in the shower and I was thinking about that very bus model, right, being converted into a mobile home. I was in the shower and I was thinking, imagining myself having a shower in one of those buses being converted into a mobile home. And I was just going through my YouTube, and that randomly came up. So that's just, there's no connection. I never even typed it in before on Google or anything. I didn't do any recent research on that. And it just came up. And I haven't even spoke to anybody. I haven't spoke out about it to anybody. I was just merely thinking about it in my mind. So that's just far too much of a coincidence. 11th of, and logging it in, 11th of October 2022. Hello. I find this pretty bizarre, mighty bizarre actually. I'm just going away out the door to my work, and I noticed that the clock that I've got, the clock stopped, the battery had gone flat. It's the AA type batteries that it uses. Now, it's just, what happened is that the battery went in that flat, and both the smoke alarms at the same time, independently to the clock, and both smoke alarms independently to each other, the batteries on them also have gone flat at the same time. It's far too much of a coincidence. It's like they're always connected in some way, but they aren't. I just find that really bizarre. That's my observation of it, and I'm just going to log that in. It's the 11th of October 2022. I mean, how could these electrical devices, the batteries, all go flat at the same time? How does that work? I just don't get that at all. They use different power ratings as well, so that it's not like the batteries went in at the same time or from the same pack. They use different power ratings. And I know that batteries don't like cold weather, but it's not, the temperature in here isn't really that much fluctuation in the house. So just find that incredible. Thought I'd log it in anyway. Just find it really bizarre. Now this is just totally bonkers, right? I just got into my car, I had the radio on, and the minute the rain started coming on, that song came on. And what else is bonkers, right? About just a couple hundred yards back there, it was raining. And up ahead, it's dry. It's too much of a coincidence. And also the weather is just like micro weather. How can it be raining just a couple hundred yards back there and it's bone dry here? Nah, no way. And that tune just coming on, the minute I'd noticed it started raining, that song, Why Does It Always Rain On Me, came on. Far too much of a coincidence. It's just bizarre. But I thought I'd log it in anyway. Just don't know what you think. I think it's pretty bizarre. I've never known weather to behave like the way it does. I've noticed it over the last couple of years maybe. There's a lot more micro weathers. It could be bone dry at one zone of the city, and just in the next scheme it could be like bucketing me rain. I've noticed that a lot. And the amount of mega coincidences that happened as well is just off the scale. And as for that song coming on, I just put that radio on, and there was songs and tunes on the radio, and the second that rain came on, that song came on. Now I don't know, I was going to do an experiment and actually ask somebody to tune up the same station that I'm on to see if it's playing the same song that I'm playing, or is it some sort of tailor-fit AI, artificial intelligence. It's maybe just tailor-fitting songs for particular people at particular scenarios and situations that they're in. But the problem is, if I used the phone, it would be artificial intelligence would know that as well, and it would probably then change the tune on the other radio as well. It would have to be just by sheer independence to go to hear the radio playing with the same station if it was a different song on at the same time, you know, if it's tailor-fitted for each people. But again, if there's AI and there's artificial intelligence, it would probably know where there was anyway. It would be able to track my movements with the phone. And even then, there might be some sort of tracker in this anyway, you know. Just think of the amount of stuff that we ingest, you know, food, water, they could be kind of all got their own tracking system. And the radios and songs and that, they could tailor-fit stuff to whatever situation that you're in, you know, and it could do that. Because I've noticed this a lot recently, and when I say recently, I mean within the last few years. I mean, it might seem long, but I'm 47, so recently for me a few years is recent. And I've never known it to be like this before until recently. Anyway, I find it bizarre. I've got to go. Thought I'd log that in. Just pure randomly had the radio on. It started raining, and that song, Why Does It Always Rain On Me, came on. And just a few hundred yards back that way, it's raining, and just up ahead is bone dry. I'll try and show you this before I go. Bone dry up ahead. Yeah, bone dry up ahead, and back there, just back there, it's raining. I can't really see what I'm filming. I don't know when I get out at the moment, but that's what happened anyway.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland.
Well, this is kind of really bonkers as far as I'm concerned. I went on the Flixbus from the very first time I went on the Flixbus. It was from Dundee to Aberdeen. Then I went on it again to Dundee to Glasgow. And then yesterday, for the third time, I went on it again to Dundee to Glasgow. So 3 times in a row, right? 3 times in a row, the song As It Was came on the radio. They play the radio in these coaches. So 3 times in a row, that song came on. I find that far too much of a constance. It was the Flixbus, the green Flixbus coach services that run services between Aberdeen and Glasgow, and it goes through Dundee. First time it was all within the space of a few months. First time I went on it, I heard the song As It Was by Harry Styles. The second time I went on it, I heard the same song again playing. The third time, same song again. And it's the radio. It's not a CD or anything like that, it's the radio. I saw it. And the radio stations change as well. It was a Radio Tay when it was in the Dundee area, and when it got towards the nearer Glasgow, it went to Clyde 1, I think it was. I was able, because I was sitting in the seats, I was able to look down and see on the dashboard the radio settings, and it was Radio Tay, and then it got nearer Glasgow, changed it to Clyde 1. So it's different radio stations. It's random songs, well, supposedly random songs, but 3 times in a row. The only 3 times I went on that coach, and every time I heard that song. Now the song for me means, actually, it's quite a nice song. I quite like it actually. It resembles well, for me it makes me think of the Mandela effect phenomenon, just in its own sort of right. You know, the lyrics of the song and that. Yeah, the lyrics, and it's kind of, I don't know, it kind of touches me, the song, a wee bit in a way. The tune, just everything about it. I didn't select it. I mean, I haven't owned it. I just came across this song, and that's what it makes me think of. Yeah. So yeah, it makes me kind of think of the Mandela effect. Just, you know, the way it isn't the way it always, as it was. And not good with songs, but certainly that's what comes to mind. No, I mean, I believe in well, I've experienced what's referred to online as the Mandela effect phenomenon. I'll put it like that because I don't know what's going on. But what I do know is I know what I've experienced, and I know what I've experienced first time very well. And there's things online that come under the Mandela effect phenomena that I could relate to as well. But I've experienced lots of experiences and my own first-hand personal experiences. And I don't know what's causing it, but it does resemble something, or it seems like something that you could classify it as a Mandela effect online. Because I don't know what's going on but when you go online and type in the Mandela effect phenomena, it'll give you information about the Mandela effect, and the stuff I've experienced firsthand will be like that. But it doesn't mean that's what it is, because I don't know what it is. It just means that it's like what it's referred to online as the Mandela effect. But it's just for ease, for reference, to reference it as a Mandela effect. Hence, I've called it the Mandela effect. But I can't claim to know what's causing it because I don't understand yet what's causing it. But I would like to learn. I suppose we all learn in our own rate. I mean, it obviously seems like there's lots of skeptics about the Mandela effect, that it, just false memory. But fair enough. I mean, we all learn at their own rate. They experience their experiences. I know what I've experienced for sure. But anyway, that song, to me, it's just far too much. I'm gonna have to get good. It's just far too much of a constance. 3 times in a row, that song plays, and then into the Mandela effect. And that song makes me think of the Mandela effect, that it comes on the radio randomly. Anyway, mentioning it. So, the Matrix movie, the red pill and the blue pill, I mean, and the official video for that song, they wear a red and blue dress. But the colours of red and blue, I mean, I'm not going to mention much about that, but the red and blue always made me think of, symbolised, that it was used for, like, for example, taps. I'll use that as an example. I mean, a blue tap is still referred to is the cold one, and the red one is still referred to as the hot tap. Colours like pink and blue they have been used in reference to, you know, but I'm not saying it because I'm just not going down that. But that's up to you to make what you think. That's anyway. But the point I'm making is that it's like I thought about, you know, like a tap, you know, blue tap being the hot tap, and the hot tap being the blue tap. You know, the colour symbols kind of are used as a, or were used, still are used as a kind of colour coded reference, I suppose. Like, I mean, you think pink and you think blue. So you've got you go to a clothes shop, for example, and clothes come in different colours. You see, as I say, I'm not going to mention anything because I'm not opening up a different subject. But you know, okay, I'll just cut to the chase, and won't beat about the bush. I just find it interesting that the guy wore the red dress and the woman wore the blue dress. That was all. I'm not trying to make anything of it or anything like that. I just found it interesting. That was all. It's, if I went back, I don't know, go back maybe when I was growing up, you know, way back in the 80s and that. If I saw a video, I would have expected the other way around. The guy would be wearing the blue dress and the woman would be wearing the red dress. But I just find it interesting how it's switched. That's all. It's a modern thing. I know times have changed. It's no, you know, I could understand it. Society and the world's changed and things are changing. I could see that. So, but I just thought I'd mention it anyway. I didn't want to open up that subject. You know, live and let live is in my book. I don't have a problem with it. I just found it interesting, that was all. Hello. I've just come back from just on break basically. There's something I've noticed. I've noticed this phenomenon before. Now I've driven one part, I drive the buses and I drove it from one stretch of the road to another stretch of the route. Now there's been times where it's been identical, like I've not picked up any passengers or made any stops, and I'm going from particular point A to point B along the route, not the entire route, but just a particular part of the route. It could take X number of time. Now I've had the exact same buses, same acceleration, traffic conditions and everything, road conditions, speed, everything like that. Variables more or less the same, and yet the time that it takes varies considerably. It's almost like a time distance dilation. So I'm going from like a point A to a point B. Now it should take roughly the same time because I've noticed that the variables are the same, yet the time it takes could vary considerably. I've noticed this before actually, going back maybe even a few years ago, but I noticed it again today. Now it's not just the same route, it's in general, like travelling distances. I may have had similar experiences in my car, but because I drive buses all the time, I've certainly noticed it on the routes. No, it's not, as I say, it's not just a particular route, it's an example is from a particular point to another point with one day the same variable. One day I'll get it done in X number of time. Another time I'm on that duty doing exactly the same particular point to the other point. Same or very similar variables, but a much more considerable difference in the time that it takes. Sometimes it could take longer, sometimes it could take less, and yet the speed that I'm travelling and accelerations are all roughly the same. I've taken all that into consideration, but it doesn't account for the amount of time difference. I find that pretty bizarre. I've noticed it before. I noticed it again today actually, so I thought I'd just log this in. It's the 11th of October 2022. Well, I'll just make this quite a short video. I don't want to take too long on it. It's just regarding some bizarre stuff. I've actually made a wee note of them. Got a few. It was a couple of days back. I had a shot my mate's car. Now, basically, it's got a very low biting point on the clutch and a very soft pedal as well. So like anything, I'm used to my car, it's got a heavy clutch and a higher biting point. So I stalled it a few times, like, you know. I mean, I've only been driving for 27 years, like, but my mate, he's no long past his test, and there was something that I thought it might be better to, you know, take over and manoeuvre the car in for him. So I ended up just stalling it a couple of times, you know, just to get used to it, like. Felt like a beginner again. But anyway, that's what happened there, right? Now, the next morning, I think it was, or was it even later that night, but it was either later on that night or the next morning, I watched the YouTube channel that I watch regularly, and the guy that was speaking on his channel says that he did exactly the same sort of thing. He stalled his partner's car. Now, I've watched the channel for years, and he came up with that just after, basically the next time I watched his channel, but after I stalled my mate's car, I, you know, just stalled it, and then a couple of times, like, and I watched that channel, I think it was either that night or the next morning, and he was talking about the stuff that he talks about on his channel, and he brought that up. That was one of the things he brought up, that he stalled his partner's car. And the chances of the coincidences of that are just, it's almost synchronicities. I'm going to try and keep this video short. So that was one just massive, ridiculous coincidence. The other one was Halloween lately. Halloween to me seems to be getting much more hyped up. There's never used to be like that. And it seems to be celebrated much more intensely now. Guy Fawkes is kind of fizzled out. There isn't going to be any Guy Fawkes fireworks here in Dundee from the council. Which I find odd, and just over the last 2 years, I think it is, Halloween's just kind of like gone off the scale. It's been completely, you know, hyped up. People dressing up, houses all done up with Halloween stuff. Drinking water. The drinking water, I've probably mentioned before in my videos, I've noticed there's a difference in the taste and the smell with drinking water. I've said that before in previous videos, and I said it was like an inky taste. Well, it actually has got the kind of same smell as the AdBlue you get from the diesel exhausts. You get diesel engines, the Euro 5, 6, Euro 5 and Euro 6 engines, they have an AdBlue system. Well, it's like the smell of the AdBlue coming from the exhaust. There's that kind of smell in the drinking water. Not just here in Dundee, but around the country, from as far as Johnny Groats to as far south as Barrow and Furness and Buxton, at least. So it's kind of like around the country. And that's lately as well, by the way. Another thing is the computers, the keyboard, laptops and smartphones, the keypads. If you get adverts and stuff and things you don't want to touch, or, you know, if you inadvertently touch them, you don't really want it, you hover over the button or the keypad, but it'll just work instantly. But if you want to get a response of something that you actually want to do, you can hit it all day and it'll not work. You know, it'll take ages, it'll not respond. So there's like a bit of bias in the response. It's like it's want you to hit something that they're trying to promote quite easily. You just have to hover over it on the touch screen and it will respond. But if it's something you're actually doing, like instructions in an app that you're trying to do something, you can hit it for ages and it will be very slow response. So it's a bit of bias here. I just thought I'd notice that. Right, that's long enough. Okay, just thought I'd mention that. Thanks for watching. Possible Mandela effect. Well, it is a Mandela effect because I don't remember it. It's the netting at the back of the headvests on the Capri and the Professionals. So it's an episode of the Professionals, and the Capri has netting on the backs of the headrests. That was never there before. So I'm just logging that in today, 1st of October 2022. Another thing that's quite odd as well is I already watched an episode of The Professionals just prior to this episode, and I noticed it on that as well. So it took me probably that episode and halfway through this episode, that's about an hour and a half, And then it's just kind of dawned. I noticed it right away, but I never sort of registered it. I did notice it. But now, an hour and a half later, I've actually took a decision to decide that it is a Mandela effect, and I'm logging it in. Whereas before I was kind of comfortable with it, and now I'm feeling, not uncomfortable, but uncomfortable to say that it's normal. I feel just to put it like that. Not cause me any discomfort, but I feel wrong to think that it was always like that and that it's normal. But an hour and a half ago, I was kind of like, I noticed it, and I didn't really think much of it. But an hour and a half later, I'm beginning to think a lot more of it, to the point now where I've actually just kind of consciously registered it as a Mandela effect. So that phenomenon in itself is quite interesting. That's something that I've noticed about the Mandela effect as well. So same day, it's the 1st of October 2022. Or if you like, it's very late Saturday night or early Sunday morning, 2nd October. It's the small hours. It's 2:30 in the morning. So you could say very late Saturday night, or technically it is Sunday morning, 2nd October. But Saturday, 1st October 2022. And the more I think about it, another thing about this, I've never seen headvests ever with that mesh behind it before, or that netting. It's kind of like netting or whatever. Never seen it like that before in any headvest. And I've got the whole box set of the professionals, and I've watched it many, many times over. And I've saw the Capri in it many, many times. And I've even saw the professionals on ITV4, and I've also saw the professionals originally when it was shown in the 80s. And I've saw Capris before. I've never saw any car with headvests with that kind of netting on the back of it, ever. So, like I said earlier, an hour and a half ago, I just felt sort of, I noticed it, I clocked it right away, but it felt normal. But an hour and a half later, it kind of dawned on me that it wasn't. And obviously logged it in. I just kind of let it go an hour and a half ago, but now, an hour and a half later, now, I've decided no, it's definitely something. I've took the step now to register it consciously that it is definitely different. Whereas before I knew it was odd and just accepted it for some weird, strange reason. Anyway, so 1st October 2022. Now this is something I find very bizarre. I've actually logged this in before a while back. But it's these trees here, or what's left of them, totally merged into the fence. And there's no nearby tree trunk either. Baldovi, at Baldovi Industrial Estate in Dundee, but I've seen this phenomena in other places as well. Well, this is another thing that's really bizarre, but it's the same kind of principle. It's a tree, it's merged right in. I've never known this to happen before until fairly recently, within the last 2 years. It's just going straight in. I mean, how does that work? How does the tree grow into it? Now, I have logged this in before in my earlier videos, but I'm just logging it in again. It's just an update on it. It's like this all the way along in this fence. Now, this is just a prime example. That's why I've selected this place here at Baldovi Industrial Estate in the northeast corner of Dundee, right on the neighbouring edge of the Whitfield housing scheme. I've noticed this up and down the country as well, by the way. And this is like within the last 2 years. And I've been in this area before, for many, many years before that, way back in the 90s even. And I've never noticed this before. And these trees are a fair age. It just reminds me of the film The Philadelphia Experiment, 1943, the battleship disappearing and reappearing, reatomising, USS Eldridge. It's just what comes to mind. It's just bizarre, in my opinion. I mean, for me it is anyway, because as I say, I've been around for many years, and I'm 47-year-old, okay. I've been in Dundee all my life, and I've been in this area many times over many years, and over a period of many years, and I've never noticed this phenomenon before until within the last 2 years. So just re-logging this in. As I say, I did log this in on earlier, it was 2020 when I noticed it, and just sort of coming back here again, just to, I've been here since, like, but I'm just doing another video on it. Right, so I've logged it in. The day's date is 4th October 2022. Okay, so hope you enjoyed my video. I'd be interested to read any sensible comments written for any explanations regarding the stuff that I find to be puzzling. Yeah, you might not find it puzzling, and you might have a logical explanation for it. Well, I'll be glad to hear it. I'll be interested to read it. I'm sure I'll be making more of these quest videos. There's a lot of bizarre things, stuff that I find anyway to be bizarre. So just keep a look out and see what else I put up. Right, thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye now. Bye for now.